Greetings, welcome back to Consciousness Rising. This is episode 2, and last week we discussed what is consciousness, and I went into sort of basic details, different things and different theories and ways that we can look at consciousness. And on this episode I'll be going deeper into what I left off with, and that was the conscious and the subconscious mind. So with that being said, this was the image I left off with last episode, and actually if you want to get the most out of my work, I recommend that if you are a new viewer, go back and watch episode 1 first. Episode 1 was just a taster really of what's to come. There's going to be lots of content coming, and I'm going to start to get deeper and deeper. So here we have a great image of what represents the conscious and the subconscious mind. Both of these minds actually are working in operation all the time. And what I love about this image so much is, as I said in the last episode, the conscious part of ourselves is such a tiny element. Below the surface, the unseen factors, lies the subconscious mind, which is much more powerful. So yeah, I think that image really encapsulates that really nicely. So let's break them down. So the conscious mind, it is our present moment awareness. It's creative, it can think of anything, the conscious mind, and it holds our wishes, desires and aspirations. Interestingly, you'll see that 5%, what they're saying is the conscious mind is only in control 5% of our day. So all through the day, this is the weaker mind. However, things like mindfulness, that puts us in a state of present moment awareness, and that's where the practice of mindfulness can be so beneficial, because it's so powerful. The more we can be in the conscious mind and actually stay conscious, the more healthy we'll be, because we won't be ruled by our subconscious programming, which I'll go on to talk about in a minute. So engaging the conscious mind is important, and that's where mindfulness, like I say, that's one of the tools that can be used to effectively get us to think consciously and you engage that conscious mind. Mindfulness is a powerful tool actually. There's many good resources online where you can look up and just practice how to be more mindful, and a simple one is just, when we're sitting and eating our food, how many of us are actually really living in the moment and enjoying every bite, enjoying all the flavours, and taking our time. Most of us, we're stuck in the rat race of thinking about what we've got to do later, what we've got to do tomorrow. We've got meetings coming up, we've got this and that, we've got family problems. We do live very complicated lives as human beings. So the more conscious we can be and engage that conscious mind, the better, because we'll be living in the present moment. Because actually, the present moment is all there is. The past, you can't do nothing. You can't change the past. All there is now. We're constantly in a state of now, and the more we can be aware of that and not think of the past and not think of the future in a sort of defeating way where it affects us negatively, the more present we'll be and the more healthier we'll be. So moving on to the subconscious mind then, massively more powerful. There you go, look, 95% of our daily life we're running from the subconscious mind, and it's our acquired programs, and it's habitual, so it learns in a different way. The conscious and the subconscious mind learn very differently, and I'm hoping I'll make that clear as I go ahead in this presentation. It's our instincts and experiences, and it's engaged for 95%. It's so powerful. The more we're aware of it though, the more we can do something about the programs we have that are negative and are holding us back, as you'll see as I go along. Habitual, it works in the way of when you're at school and you learn your ABCs, you learn it from rote-in and repetition, and A B C D E F G, you do that over and over again until that becomes a habit. So it's just there, it's at the back of your mind, and you can just bring it forward whenever you need it. Much like times tables as well, when they teach you times tables in school, it's repetition. That's the way the subconscious mind works. It learns very differently than the conscious mind. These are the brain waves. We all go through a cycle of brain waves. As we go to sleep, we have windows of opportunity, and they're all there to see. And as you can see, the beta wave is the awake, normal, alert, your consciousness. You know, when you're alert, you're active in the world, you're going out to work or whatever you're doing, you're probably in beta. Alpha is just a bit below, it's physically and mentally relaxed, awake but not drowsy. Delta, deep dreamless sleep, loss of bodily awareness. Theta, and that is the most important one I'm going to talk about today, the theta wave, reduced consciousness, deep meditation. Again, I said last week, or not last week, last episode, that meditation can be hugely beneficial because, you know, some of us are carrying a lot of stress and anxiety around. Meditation can help us with that, you know, because it puts us in that, hopefully in that theta wave, which is much more calm in our body. It's where we get our dreams and our light sleep and our REM sleep, which is really important to help us function the next day. And then you've got gamma, which is heightened perception. The most important one I'm going to talk about, as you'll see, is theta. So what is the theta state? It's critical for child development. And as you say, as it says there, it is the brain activity between the third trimester and around 7 years of age. Okay, so children in that state, in that age bracket, they are constantly in a stage of theta, and it's the realm of imagination. You know, you've all seen very small children pretending to be cowboys or whatever, and pretending to ride on broomsticks or whatever that is. You know, to them that's real because their brain is functioning in a different state. It's in the theta wave, which is the realm of imagination. It's also nature's super learning state. You know, it's amazing that it's given us this because children learn very, very quickly, and it directly programs the subconscious mind. Okay, so nature's given us this period of opportunity between 0 and 7 where we're constantly soaking up and we're learning very, very quickly. And as you see there, you know, it directly programs the subconscious mind. And that subconscious mind becomes developed around age 7. So our brain waves change, everything about us change. But that, you know, you hear people say, don't you, like, oh, a small baby, oh, you know, I don't know why we're doing this party or whatever, because they'll never remember it. They might not remember it consciously, but their subconscious absolutely remembers it. And that's also important to think about when we think of childhood trauma. A child between the age of, you know, 0 and 7, if they've suffered trauma within that state, it's going to be very, very deep because it's going to go directly into that subconscious program and it will replay itself as a program, and it'll be very, very hard to shift. However, as I move forward, and as I promised, I will be talking about one healing modality that's absolutely brilliant for reprogramming the subconscious mind. So that's the theta state. I spoke about this just a little bit there. Child development and the subconscious. The subconscious mind develops between the last trimester and 7 years of age. Children are in a constant learning state and are learning from their relationships and environmental experiences. You know, and you hear the whole nature versus nurture argument all the time, but my understanding is, my knowledge is that, you know, children, human beings, are absolutely programmable. If you get a child, this in a, you know, between that gap, you can program them, whether that's negatively or positively. And that's what I said. It's so critical to know this information because when we all think about and reflect on our own past, you know, and we think about those early childhood years, you know, what was happening to us? What did we pick up that was negative? What did we pick up that was positive? You know, so the people around us when we're that young are critical, and that's why conscious parenting is so important. You know, if you've got a small baby or small child and you're stumbling onto this information, you know, take it in because it's really important, because things can go really wrong for a child between that age. I'm not saying it can't be healed or rewritten, because it can. You know, we can learn all the time. But, you know, deep-seated trauma between those ages can be disastrous for a small child. And this is how it manifests in adult life. 95%, as I said, of our thoughts are subconscious programs and beliefs we received from others as children. And psychologists are estimating that up to 70% of these programs that we're replaying are self-limiting and disempowering. So just that alone, how many people are walking around with negative programs that they're replaying and defaulting to their subconscious and playing those things out all the time? And I put that at the bottom. How many of you have a friend that often acts just like their parents but can't see it? You get people sometimes and they might be a bit frustrated or angry and they might sort of be ranting and raving, and when they do it they sound just like their father. And the crazy part about it is when you point that out to them, they're the only person that can't see it, because as I said, it's a subconscious program, so it's automatic and they're not aware of it. The more you can bring awareness to it, the more you can expose it and work with it. And that really is shadow material. It's working with those factors, with those self-limiting and disempowering programs. If we can bring them to light, we can change them. Not easy to do, but absolutely you can do it. And I've been doing it actually when I started to stumble across this information. And like I said, Dr. Bruce Lipton really is one of the leading figures in this field. I've started to become much more aware of the things I've picked up and the things I repeat automatically that are really disempowering, or they're not good behaviours. I need to change them. I've worked on quite a lot of them, but I've still got ways to go. And we're all not perfect. We've all got things we can do, but knowing this information to me has been one of the real shifts in my awareness, and I've learnt so much. Okay, so the problem with positive thinking and self-help books, and you do get people, don't you, who read self-help books and they're like, this is great, and I've done it myself. I've read things and I've gone, yeah, that's brilliant. Now I know this, I can change this and that, and then you think, a week later, it hasn't stuck. All this positive thinking I'm doing, it hasn't stuck. And there's a reason for that. And that is because the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, as I said at the beginning, they learn very, very differently. If the knowledge that's gone into your conscious mind hasn't gone through to your subconscious mind, then it won't stick. It will just be conscious, and that's like the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind. The subconscious is going to win every time because it's 95%. It's much, much, much more powerful. And as I've put at the bottom, it's habitual. It's like a tape player playing programs over and over again. So in order to change the subconscious programming, there's no point shouting at the tape, as Bruce Lipton says. You've got to change the tape. So you have to rewrite your programs. And there's a quote from the great man: our thoughts are mainly controlled by our subconscious, which is largely formed by the age of 7. And you cannot change the subconscious just by thinking about it. That's why the power of positive thinking will not work for most people. The subconscious is like a tape player. Until you change the tape, it will not change. That's one of the most important lessons I've learned, I think. And then you got to ask yourself, well, how do I do that? How do I change the subconscious if it's so powerful? Because it learns differently. Another way of thinking about the subconscious and how it learns, actually, for any of you out there that are drivers, I remember my first sort of driving lessons, and you get in that car and you're told to do all this stuff with your feet and change the gear stick and keep an eye on the road, and it feels like way too much, and you feel so clunky. And it's only through repeating it, keep having those driving lessons, and now, God, I've been driving years now, and it's automatic. It's coming from my subconscious. My subconscious has learned now exactly how to drive. And you sometimes get that disassociate thing where I'm sure many of you have experienced this, but you drive somewhere, you arrive there, and you suddenly become conscious and think, God, I don't remember one bit of that trip. I've done that on the way to work before. You get there and you think, oh, I'm here. You have that almost light bulb moment that actually you've almost feel like you've been asleep or you've time travelled or something. But yeah, it's because it's subconscious. It's automatic. It's like autopilot almost. Okay, so here we come to the really important thing: how to reprogram the subconscious, which is so important, especially if, as psychologists are saying, we're walking around with 70% that are just disempowering and negative. The three main ways you can do it: hypnosis. That's why hypnotherapy can be a very, very powerful tool for many people. And you hear stories all the time, don't you, where something like smoking, people smoke and smoke and smoke. Obviously, the more they do it, the more it reprograms the subconscious mind. They can't be without it because it's automatic. And you get people say that, well, I've had some hypnotherapy and I completely give up smoking overnight. It can happen. It can definitely happen. So hypnotherapy is a really interesting thing to look into. The second bit, repetition to form a habit. Probably the most boring way to do it, but I had a conversation with someone recently about, if you say something enough to yourself, i.e., I am healed. A good friend of mine taught me this. It's like a mantra. So if you keep saying it, especially if you're going to sleep at night, because obviously as you go to sleep you cycle through those different brain waves. So if you can get into saying to yourself, I am healed, I am well, or whatever you want to say, keep saying it over and over again. If you get that in the theta state, that'll go in as a program. So then once your subconscious lines up with your conscious, if that becomes conscious, you will heal. And that's another field that I'm sure I'll be touching on later. Again, I've got to give credit to Bruce Lipton, but epigenetics is a fantastic and really interesting field of study now. Basically, what they've found out now, the leading science now, has found out that we're not slaves to our genes. Genes are important. They are part of us, but our genetics doesn't mean that we're destined to get whatever that is. Just because someone in our family had something doesn't mean we are going to get it. That's not true. Epigenetics, it means above genetics. And again, I know I brought up this book last week, but more information can be found in the brilliant book, The Biology of Belief, which it's just life changing. It talks about epigenetics, it talks about the subconscious mind, and at the end of it, it brings in spirituality, but explained through a scientific way, and it's just absolutely mind blowing. Fantastic book. And then at the bottom there, so you've got hypnosis, like hypnotherapy, like I said. You've got repetition. Give it a go. Keep saying, fake it till you make it, they say. And that's why they say, just say, I am happy, I am happy. Even if you're not, just keep telling yourself. If you do it enough, you will become happy. The brain will work that way. The bottom, energy psychology. That to me is the most fascinating part. The belief change modalities. There's loads of different forms. I am a practitioner of one of them called emotional freedom techniques. It's basically, it combines exposure therapy and tapping on acupressure points. And what it can do is, it can uncover traumas, it can uncover events in our lives that have led us to have these subconscious programs, these negative subconscious programs, and it can also rewrite it. So you can basically, because it's an energy psychology and it's a form of energy healing, what you're basically doing is you're not changing the memory. I can't ever change someone's memories. The memories are eternal and they're there. However, what you can change is the emotional residue, if you like, the trauma that's left when you think of a childhood trauma. If you're sitting there and you think, oh God, I think of that incident that happened when I was 5 and whatever happened, I got smacked for something and I still feel angry and really sad about that. That's because there's still an energetic component that's clinging to your energy system. So what EFT can do is expose you back to it and then delete it. So you're deleting the impact like I say, you can't change the memory, but you can change the emotional energy that's stuck in your system. And I believe that's my last slide for today. As I say, this to me has been one of my most important things I've learned in my life. I think the conscious and the subconscious, because it's taught me so much about, how we are all programmed, and that goes back to even the information we take in. It's a diet isn't just food. It's all the information we take in. The stuff we watch on telly, and how many people sit there and watch the nightly news, soaking it all up and just believing everything of it, not being able to actually question it. Which is another topic that I'll be getting into later. But that's it for today. I'm not going to go too heavy into EFT because that's my next video actually. There's going to be on my channel eventually a couple of different playlists. Obviously I'm going to keep doing these consciousness rising videos, because these are basically my knowledge that I'm putting out there, and I hope, in the hope that anyone can find some sort of benefit to it. But I'm going to have another playlist which is going to be all focused on my emotional freedom techniques, on that healing. I'm also going to, the first video will be me explaining it and breaking it down in a slide presentation like I have here with the subconscious and conscious. And then hopefully once I get a bit more familiar with the editing tool that I'm using, I'm hoping to put out some actual EFT meditations, so you can sort of you can do it from your own home. You can do these meditations from home because they're very powerful, and and hopefully you'll get some sort of healing from it, if you're interested. Okay, so that's it for today. Like I said, I don't know when I'm uploading. I was lucky enough, I think this has been about a week since my last upload, but we'll see how it goes. Take care everyone. Cheers, bye.